happening, HC Nation? Hey, this is a follow-up from Tuesday's questions. There are more questions from Giovanni. He has great questions from the rules, and they're not exactly Stump the Creators, but one could have been. At the same time, it's not. It was more. I just need to set the rules straight. But yeah, if you have questions, this is what Stump the Creator is about. You have questions, and you think you can stump me in my own game, please send them here. If you have questions and you just want them answered, send them here. If you want, put Stump the Creator, and I'll put them in the videos. So let's go on to the next. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. Okay, here we go. Does an interrupt played on your turn count towards your 3 cards played, or does it always count as a free play? Okay, great question. The way I've set this up is that any card that you use on your turn are part of the 3. Now, if you use your 3 up, because you can use an interrupt at any time, then that becomes an interrupt after the fact. So here's the thing. So we had some questions about this years ago, probably 2 years ago, I think, during our virtual tournaments, where somebody was played a card and then someone interrupted that card. Well, they did a reverse on that card, so it used up 2 of their cards, and then all of a sudden somebody attacked again or interrupted again, and they used a 3rd card. They're like, that's not fair. I didn't get to use any of my cards. Well, you chose to use those interrupts. And in the rules, if I'm saying straight to the rules, you're allowed to use 3 cards per turn. Now, for instance, if you used it afterwards, then it's an interrupt card. It can be used any time. But any card that you use during your turn, at the beginning of your turn, is considered a card that you're using as per the rules. We couldn't just say, well, if you have interrupt cards and you use them, then it doesn't apply, because it could be an interrupt card and you're still playing them as a regular card. So there's my rock and a hard place. It could be either way, but that is the question here. And yes, if you play an interrupt during the first 3 cards you play during your turn, it is considered one of your cards. Next question: is the morale cap total or from start to turn? And if it lasts a round, does it mean if 2 players made someone lose 500 morale, they would only lose 800 morale? So I have to dissect. Let me just talk about morale points, the morale cap. So you can only increase or decrease by 800 points per turn. So during your turn, you can only give yourself up to 800 morale. Okay, great. So you have an 800 morale cap. But the reason why I said during your turn is because you have cards that say whenever your opponent gets morale, you get morale for any reason. Then I'm not going to limit you from getting that morale too, because it's out of your control. So you don't know if you're actually going to get it. But during your turn, you can only get 800 morale points. And it's from start of your turn to the end of your turn. So when you play your first card to when you draw your cards, that's when you can get the 800 morale. Now, when it comes to losing morale, same thing goes. During your turn, if something happens and you start losing morale, you lose up to 800 morale. And then when it becomes your opponent's turn, they have a chance of making you lose another 800 morale by attacking you. It's like, what? That's just, no, it's not overpowered. Overpowered was when I had no caps and you can get 2,000 points all in one turn. That was way overpowered. So we've limited it a little bit so we didn't have that issue. All right, going on to the next. Does taking a land card give you that land's benefit if you have not yet used its ability? Great question. Okay, so here's the thing. When you use a land card, you're using, when you receive a land card, say from your land pile, you get the abilities. If you get it from somebody else, like you attack someone and you take over that land, yes, they've used it, but you've never used it. So you get that land. Now, if it goes from you to somebody else steals it, and then you steal it back, you've already used that ability. Much like all the other cards' abilities, unless it goes to the discard and is placed back in your hand and then played, or back in the land pile and then play again, you don't get to reuse those morale points. You don't get to collect more morale points. Now remember, you don't lose morale by losing a card that gave you morale points. You always keep the morale unless a card says to reduce your morale, mostly from your opponent. Sometimes from you. I don't know why those cards even exist, except for that they're historical figures. But there are some very strong people that make you, much like Hitler, a lot of the conquerors, they are very strong militarily, but they decrease your morale. So you get to choose if you want to have them. Going back to the question. So if you take a land from your opponent, you can use the abilities. Now, if you take it back from somebody, so say someone took it from you and you take it back, you do not get those abilities again because you already used them once. Okay, going to the next question. This is the last question. If my opponent plays William Shakespeare, I can play simo hayha to kill him and keep my character. That's right. Simo hayha is a interrupt and would stop William Shakespeare's ability before he ever started. So if Shakespeare, sorry, I'm commentating on the question before finishing it. Going back to the question. So if William Shakespeare is played and hayha is already in play, can I use his interrupt ability to kill Shakespeare before he is able to take simo out of my civilization, allowing me to keep him, since interrupt abilities are always faster than regular abilities? Yes, so here's the thing. We've stated in previous videos that you can actually play an interrupt card as a regular card. And if it's a hold ability, now if it's an instant, it does not apply. If it's a hold ability, you can hold on to the ability and still use it as an interrupt. So you can play it during somebody else's turn. If they're playing against you, you can play that one, but it has to be a hold ability. If it's an interrupt and a one-time or an instant use, you can't use it. So be careful on that. So simo hayha can take out William Shakespeare's before William Shakespeare can take simo hayha. So, and it applies to all other cards that are similarly worded. If you find a card that's not similarly worded, but you have a question on it, please put that in the comments below, send me an email, try to stump me. This is called Stump the Creator for a reason. I want you to try to stump me. So thank you so much for joining us. We will catch you next time, next week, next Tuesday. So take care and talk to you soon. Bye. If you have any comments or questions, add them to the comments below. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow, actually. Take care. Bye.